So a little bit of background information on our speaker today, Adam Lewenberg. He is the president of Postal Advocate, the only mail audit and recovery firm in the US and Canada. We manage a portfolio of over 160,000 pieces of mailing equipment for the largest US companies. He speaks and teaches nationally on mail savings and industry trends. He's also the former industry co-chair for the Boston Postal Customer Council and a member of the Mail Systems Management Association with certifications in CMDSS and MDC. He's a featured writer for the Mailing Systems Technology magazine, and he also worked for one of the largest mailing vendors for over 17 years as the Director of National Sales for Pre-Sort, Tabletop Inserters, Addressing, Hardware, Software, and Green Offerings. He was also one of the top 5 account managers nationally, working with some of the nation's top accounts. Over to you, Adam.
Thanks, Doris. So good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, based on where you are in the country. So we're going to go over the October 2020 USPS rate change, which is a little bit different than a lot of rate changes. So it's different in the sense that it's a temporary rate increase. So we haven't really seen a short-term temporary increase in a long time. And it's very shortened in duration, October 18th through the 20th through December 27th. It's very clear why the post office is doing this. They want to capitalize on holiday package shipping. And as you go through this, there's a specific commercial segment that they're trying to go after versus, mom and pops or regular people who are just sending one-off packages to family and friends. That's not what they're going after. This is more of a commercial-oriented increase, which we'll talk about. So what we're going to go over is what rates are changing, how this will impact you, what do you need to do to make sure you have the right rates in your systems. We're going to go over some savings tips, and then some thoughts about what's going on with USPS. There's a lot of news. In fact, I can't think of a time in my lifetime, and I'm almost 50, which is frightening, that we've had more news about the Postal Service, where people have been more involved with what's going on at the Postal Service. So I'm going to give you some of my thoughts, based on being in this industry for 25 years and how I think that these things are going to impact. We're going to focus on the most common rate structures. We're not going to get into every single class of mail. We're going to get into the most common classes that people use where there will be an impact. So hopefully that'll make it easy and impactful. We're not going to go off to niche rates that only the largest commercial mailers would use. So most important thing to start out with, market dominant rates are not changing. And let me break down the difference between what the post office calls market dominant versus competitive. Market dominant means in the post office world, there is no direct competitor. So nobody else can send a first class letter, that has an ounce rate way to send a piece of mail for 50 or 55 cents throughout the country. Nobody else competes. They call it market dominant. It's basically a monopoly. When you get into packages, we have, along with the Postal Service, we have UPS, FedEx, DHL, we have local couriers, we have trucking companies. So that's what they put in their competitive segment. So there's a big difference between market dominant and competitive. Market dominant rates are not changing. So if you look at your first class rates, your marketing mail, your international, your special services, these are sort of the main market dominant classes people use. There is no change. So you can rest assured that some of the main things that probably most of you are doing today, you're not going to see increases in those. Now, one of the big rates that is changing is priority mail. So before we start going into the details of this rate increase, I want to talk about, there are 3 different categories of priority mail, and I want to sort of explain what that is. So there's the retail rate, commercial base, and commercial plus. Commercial plus is relatively irrelevant now because the rates used to be provide a discount over commercial, but a couple of years ago, the post office stopped doing that. So only the largest companies that have negotiated service agreements even would have anything that would warrant even discussion with those. So the main rates we're going to focus on is retail and commercial. The main difference between it is if you walk into a post office or if you run anything over 13 ounces through your postage meter, you're getting a retail postage rate. Even if you use USPS Click and Ship, their free tool, that provides retail rates. And then there's commercial rates, and commercial rates mean basically you're submitting a transaction electronically to the Postal Service, like you see in this picture on the right, where you're submitting the address, a tracking number, and the details of the entire shipment to the Postal Service. They call that a commercial rate, and the commercial rate allows them to do more than they can do if you just slap a meter imprint on it and get it out the door. It allows them to provide a similar, the highest level of tracking on that piece. It allows them to plan their workloads because they know what pieces are physically coming in. But the main thing is that they have a linkage between the address of your piece to the postage to the tracking number, where if you just run it through your postage meter, even if you slap a tracking barcode on, you don't have that level of tracking. If you walk into a post office and you want to send a priority mail package, you've already addressed it. The post office is slapping on a tracking barcode. They may not have the full address of the piece in their system. Okay, so with commercial, there are reasons why you should do commercial, which we'll talk about as you go through, but this is the rate structure that's going to be impacted. And the reason it's going to be impacted is because most large mailers, large shippers, especially during the holidays, who are going to ship things to you are using commercial base rates. So in priority mail, the highlight is retail rates are not increasing. They're staying the same. The commercial rates are going up 40 cents per parcel. And you can see what that increase looks like. On flat rate items, flat rate are the envelopes that are already preset. You can put as much weight that fits into them. They provide the envelopes. Those are going up 4%. 1 to 5 pound packages on average are going up 4%. 5 to 10 pounds, 3%. And then basically 1% for the heavier items. And the reason that the percentages are going down is it's 40 cents across the board. So whether it's 1 pound or 70 pounds, still 40 cents, makes a lot less impact on a heavier weight item, okay, as you can see below here. But these flat rate items are going up significantly, especially the most common that we use. 775 is, 715 was the most common, that's going up to 755. For some people, that will make an impact, especially if you're doing hundreds or thousands of shipments. Priority Mail Express is going up $1.50 per commercial base parcel. So, and you can see the flat rate items are going up 7%. And you can see those rates down below 6.9, 6.4, 6.8. 1 to 5 pound are going up 4%, but the range is anywhere between 2% and 7% based on your zones. And then heavier items are going up 1 to 3%. Most common places where people are using priority mail for express or for priority mail, priority mail express or priority mail commercial, is they're using it in the less than 10 pound segment. So that's where I would really focus the majority of your thoughts and budget planning on this. Savings tips. So even though the retail rates aren't getting the discount, we still recommend using commercial rates wherever possible. When you look at priority mail and you look at flat rate is a 5% savings over retail. 1 to 5 pound is 17%, 6 to 10%, 22%. It's significant savings that you're getting using the commercial rates. And so even though we're getting an increase in these categories, there's still an incredible value to be using them. Priority Mail Express, you're basically getting 14% discounts on the lightweight items, including on the flat rate. And so you can see it still makes sense, even with these increases, to use it. So the benefits of it are you get free tracking on USPS.com, but you need to process it through a PC postage solution. So because click and ship doesn't work. So there are multiple vendors that you can use for this. Some postage meters, especially newer postage meters, may come with a separate PC postage shipping option. The downside to it is it requires the operator to key enter the address into the system. So today, if it's being let's say you're a college or a hospital and mail's coming down to your mailroom and all you want to do is sort of weigh it and get it out the door and meter it, in order to get these discounts, you physically have to type in the address, and that might slow down your operation. So those are the things to consider about, is this right for you? First class parcels package service. So first class package services is a unique gem that the Postal Service has over any of the other vendors. When you ship with UPS, FedEx, DHL, it's by the pound. So rates start at the 1 pound rate. Even priority mail is basically, or express mail is by the pound rate. But the post office has a special rate structure called first class mail package service, where it's by the ounce. And so you could see if you have lightweight items, you're sending prescriptions, screws, you're sending small parts, you're sending, printed material, and you want tracking on it, because then you can use first class package service, and rates start as low as $3. So basically, there's two classes. There's retail, where you're just basically slapping a meter imprint on it, or there's the commercial services. So the same structure where you're generating a label with a barcode on it. There's a 25-cent increase per package for commercial services. So it is significant. In some cases, you're probably talking in the 5 to 10%, 5 to 9% range of an increase on the commercial package side. But when you look at the percentage savings over retail, it's huge. So you can see for, let's just take an 8-pound item is 22 to an 8-ounce item, excuse me, is 22 to 25% less. So you're sending something for half a pound. If you do it through the commercial method, it saves you, 23, 24, 25% off the price. So significant value. When you get to heavier items, first class parcel retail rates only go up to 13 ounces. The commercial rates go up to 15.99 ounces. So what it means is anything over 13 ounces has to go priority mail, which is a pound rate if you do retail. If you use the commercial service, you still get the ounce rate. So you can see you're saving 29 to 38% on heavier weight items, that would have defaulted to priority mail, but you still get to rate them at the ounce rate. So even with this increase, the savings are still significant. And there isn't a lot of other games in town where you can ship something with tracking, in the $3 to $4 to $5 range. So when you look at all these items and you look at sort of different mail spends, we can look overall, first class parcels save about an average of 23%, priority mail on average is 13%, priority mail express is 11%, using the commercial over the retail. If someone spends $1,000 a year, they're going to save $150 in postage, 15% overall, 10,000, 1,500, 100,000, 15,000. The numbers add up as you ship more and more. And PC postage solutions start at about $15 a month that can do this. So there are some additional rates that are going up. These are less common items that the average mailer shipper isn't going to be using in their mailroom. If you're a production shipper, you may be. And those are Parcel Select Ground, 40 cents, Parcel Select CF, 40 cents, Parcel Select DNDC, 40 cents, Parcel Select Destination, 24 cents, Delivery Unit DDU, 24 cents, Parcel Return Service, 24 cents, and Parcel Select Lightweight, 24 cents. These are niche services for high volume shippers that, if you're using them, if you're doing high volume of shipping through the Postal Service, you may see some of these, and it's a one time for a specific period of time. So we're not going to go in the same level of detail because it's something that probably fewer people on this call are actually using, but this is the information, and we're going to show you where you can get more information on these rate increases if you need it. So I want to give some thoughts on what's going on at the USPS. So, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail as this goes on. So the USPS needs help due to drastic decreases in mail volume, and this will continue way into the future. We're going to look at the mail volumes in a minute, but last quarter, for the 4/1 to 6/30 period, it was the largest decreases that I think we've ever seen in the Postal Service, and we'll go into that detail. And it's causing them to need help. At the same side, regardless of COVID, even prior to COVID, if we look at the previous 3 quarters before it, mail volumes are going down 2 to 6% per year, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, it's just going to continue to happen as we decide to mail less and less, and we move to electronic delivery of items. Packages are going up, but not at the level to sort of overtake our decrease in volume of sending physical documents. So the post office is left holding the bag with all this infrastructure that they have to sort of try to maintain to provide the service levels that we need, with increasing costs due to healthcare and inflation and things like that, but with less volume to run it through. So this has been an ongoing issue. There's continual pressure about pre-funding pensions and health benefits. So there's been an onerous burden on the Postal Service to fund, like I don't know the exacts of it, but it's like 50, 80 years into the future of pension and health benefits, and fund that over a very short period of time, like in 10 years. And they're the only branch of the federal government that's been asked to pre-fund to the levels that the Postal Service is being asked. And in many years, this is what's causing the Postal Office to run in deficit, is these pre-funding levels that they're not able to meet. The Post Office has limited controls to raise rates. So you would think, we pay the lowest postage rates in the world, but the Post Office, in theory, by rules of the Postal Service, is only supposed to increase rates at the Consumer Price Index. We've been running really low inflation for the past few years, and with that, it doesn't give them an opportunity to raise rates to cover their costs. They can do something else, which is called an exigent increase, which is in extreme circumstances, they can go and they can say, we need to have a huge rate increase to cover like an extreme circumstance, which they haven't done yet. They haven't exercised that exigent increase opportunity. But it's for a period of time, usually longer than we're seeing with this, where they can ask for rate increases. The post office doesn't have the ability to just, when they want to, raise rates as much as they want to cover their costs. And that makes them inflexible. So they need this sort of flexibility to increase rates or decrease service levels. So the post office, is doing these things, whether they're picking up PO boxes or they're getting rid of sorters. These, picking up PO boxes, post office boxes, and getting rid of sorters is not something new that just happened under this current Postmaster General. This has been an ongoing thing that's been happening. At one point, there was 600 sectional center facilities, and that moved down to somewhere in the 200 range. The sectional center facilities are the big facilities that run all these sorters. So they've been on an ongoing drive to cut costs to handle this decreased mail volume. This is nothing new. They've been picking up post office boxes at similar rates prior to this new administration that they have been to after the fact. The good news is that there is decent oversight of the Postal Service. So the news media of everything that's going on with the Postal Service, I think, is a good thing. Like, I think that the fact that if there is anything that's going on that's anything geared towards elections and, mail not being able to be sent, like, I think the fact that there is so much oversight about it. I mean, from the news, the one inkling of, that service levels may not be able to support the election, there is 5 articles in every paper about it. On top of that, we have an Office of Inspector General that's geared to the Postal Service. They have a Board of Governors, there's a rate commission, there's oversight industry groups, like the postal employees are typically very dedicated, and especially at the higher ranks, bleed blue. They bleed for the post office. They're very passionate about like their cause. Congress, who gets calls from, we tried to cancel, there was a plea to cancel Saturday delivery and to reduce post office hours and close unprofitable post offices. This was about in the last 3 to 10 years. Congress got so much pushback from people talking about where their service levels would change that they basically stopped it. 60% of the country said they didn't care about Saturday delivery of mail, and the post office tried to cancel Saturday delivery and they weren't allowed because Congress got too many calls from constituents, complaining about any potential reduction in postal services. So my point is, there is really good oversight to protect the public from the Postal Service going downhill. Now, as the Postal Service, they did cut hours and they did cut overtime, and that probably has impacted some service levels. But those are things that, in my opinion, are going to get fixed and are like short-term issues. The USPS does use these levers, though, to gain visibility to the public of their plight. So their request for $25 billion of funding is to say, look, the post office is struggling, we need your help, or whether they're using it to raise funds, ask for help, or whether they're using it as a plight to raise rates, or they're using it as a plight to have more flexibility over their outcomes. This is just a normal course of action of what happens with that. It's just happening at a very highly sensitive time. So we have the lowest postage rates in the world with the largest postal service. If you compare the postal rates, 50 to 55 cents to send a letter in the United States, and you get that letter all the way from Boston to the tip of Alaska. In some cases they deliver in Arizona by mule to go down to some of the tribes. The service the post office is unlike anything else that's out there in the rest of the world. The postage rates, I think, at the next westernized country is probably in the 65 to 70 cent per letter range. Postal Service, I don't know the exact stat, but it's somewhere like we deliver like 20 to 40% of the world's mail is delivered to the United States Postal Service. It's a huge number. And the Postal Service is probably one of the most trusted federal institutions that we have, at least historically in surveys. So my feeling is that over time, the news is going to be reduced. There may be some issues that they catch. There could be some things the Postmaster General has done that they shouldn't have done. There could be practices in which they're operating under that they need to change. And I think those things will wash themselves out over time. And I think that we're going to have an effective election from a mail perspective. But I'm going to show you some specific reasons why in a second, and why I think this is, a lot overblown and in some cases, media driven. So The first thing is when we look at mail volumes, like you can see that we reduced, and these are the numbers I was referring to. We reduced from, these are quarterly and these are done by the post office produces financials of their revenue and pieces by class of mail. So, you know, the main classes of mail are first class mail, marketing mail, which is everything, you know, all the solicitations you get, periodicals, your magazines, and then package services. But you can see from a revenue perspective, and these are in millions of dollars, 214 million versus first class mail's 5.5 billion. So even if we grew 16% in package services, you know, in that in the first quarter of COVID, basically, like we reduced 10% in, you know, letter mail, which certainly, you know, is 10% is $600 million, and here we grew 29 million. You're just not making up for the deficit. So you can see the post office lost $2 billion in that quarter based on just the four main mail classes. But this is nothing new. Even prior to COVID, we were down 2% in revenue, 3% in volume, 4% in revenue, 6% in volume the quarter before, 7% in revenue, 9% in volume. This is just going to keep happening. COVID or no COVID, we're going to mail less. And these aren't new. Almost every single year, mail volumes are less. And first class mail is less almost every single year. Marketing mail sometimes stays flat. Periodical continues to go down. And package services goes flat to increases. You can see even package services was minus 4% in this quarter, minus 11%, minus 10%, and then it grew 4%. So it's just the post office is trying to maintain services with a lot of headwinds. Now, the main thing that's on everybody's mind is the post office going to be able to deliver ballot mail effectively? And that's the main reason why, in my opinion, that we're hearing so much of this news on the Postal Service. So I want to show you some numbers to give you some hope for this. So look at the number of pieces they deliver, and this is first class mail only. Most ballots are going to be delivered first class mail. They're not going to be delivered marketing mail. They're not going to be delivered, periodical rates. They're going to be delivered, if you're sending a ballot back to the Postal Service, it's going first class mail. So look at their volumes per quarter. 12 billion pieces is 154 billion pieces a day. So from 4/1 to 6/30, they deliver 154 billion pieces. From 1/1 to 3/30, 20, they delivered 182 million pieces a day. And the reason that it went up so much in this quarter is because of tax and financial reporting that they do in Q1. If you look at the holidays of 2019, that's the main quarter, 186 million pieces a day. There's 21 million over the previous quarter. So you can see the post office delivers huge sums of mail. Now, let's look at ballot numbers. There's 130,000 people roughly that voted in the 2016 election, plus or minus. These numbers are hypothetical. At most, 50% of the people are going to vote by mail. 50% of the people are still going to go to the ballot box. Okay, so that total vote is 65 million pieces. 20% of those people are going to vote absentee, or they're just going to get their stuff together ahead of time, and they're going to mail early. So of those 65 million, 20% or 13 million of those people are going to vote ahead of time. So that leaves 52 million pieces. So assume that people are last minute and only get their pieces in the last 2 weeks, that they have 10 mailing days, because we don't mail on Sundays and they have to get it there a couple days before. So that means over those 10 days, the volume is going to increase 5.2 million pieces a day. And maybe even if it grows 10 million one day and it's, 2 million the first day because people are last minute. You look at that volume compared to the daily volume they deliver between October to December 2019, that's 3% of the post office's daily first class mail volume. It's insignificant. So you think about in December, as we all send holiday cards to our friends and family, and we're sending 50, 100 cards per family out. That drives significantly more mail volume than anything to do with election mail. So when you look at these numbers, it's not that there won't be an impact. It's not that people don't have to plan ahead to make sure they get their stuff in at least 3 or 4 days ahead of time to be safe. But I don't think it's as big of impact as the news media is making it out to be. I think that we're going to be fine from a delivery perspective. And these volumes are just relatively, they're just not as significant as I think we're being made out to believe. Okay, that's our theory about it. You know, you'll certainly keep up with the media. I think it's I think it's great that people have so much attention to the Postal Service and people are watching this stuff. But I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue. I think people do need to plan ahead and mail things on time and make sure they meet certain deadlines. But I think people are going to be able to get everything out in the timeframes that they need. And ballots being sent from the municipalities to the people, I think those are certainly going to be able to be managed in a timely manner. So back to the rate change, what you need to know. If you have a mail machine, make sure that you download the new rates before October 18th when the rates take into effect. And so basically what you need to do is just on your meter, you know, just the next time you refill your meter, it's going to say rate change there. Do you want to download it? You say yes. If by chance you're not sure if you've done that or you haven't needed postage, go up to your meter and just hit the funds update and check your balance of what you have in the account. And it'll dial out to the vendor and it'll say, oh, you have this much funds and there's a rate available. Do you want to download it? And you say yes. These are the links of the different mail vendors. You know, FP, Neopost, Hassler, Pitney Bowes, Stamps.com. If they all have rate change resources you can use, we'll produce a cut sheet that we can send out to everyone that will give like a summary highlight of the updated rates. But this one should be pretty straightforward. This is a pretty easy increase for you to deal with. The bigger issue is going to be future increases that are going to happen next year. So we do these types of webinars as an education to our clients and to potential clients for the future. What we do is we help large organizations manage their mail spends. So we manage probably the largest portfolio of mailing equipment in probably the world, about 160,000 pieces of mailing equipment for the largest organizations. And we've saved our clients $66 million and with an average savings on the equipment side of 57%, which averaged 1.9 million per client. So at the same time, we've recovered $18 million in lost postage and vendor overcharges and fees. The majority of our team came from the mailing industry, so we think that we're the leading experts in this space. We have web tools that provide much higher level of visibility, and we physically help our clients manage this category to make it easy. Our clients are the top banks and insurance companies and telephone companies, and it doesn't really make any difference what industry they're in, just that our clients have portfolios of large, portfolios of equipment at multiple sites throughout the country and in Canada that allows for savings. And we manage it for them and drive savings. And our typical model is if we can prove a savings and we can document it, we share a small percentage of that savings. And if we can't, then there's no fee. And what we do for any client is we do a free analysis, a no-cost analysis, and it's no cost or obligation, where we can quantify what's happening throughout your portfolio, show you what savings are available. And we do that through a simple letter of authority. We will pull together a full inventory of all the mail equipment and your postage spends and fees and show you what savings are available. And then from there, if you decide to move forward, we will submit the credit request and lost postage. We'll negotiate better pricing for you. And then we'll work directly with your end users on helping them validate that they have equipment, right-sizing it, and terminating equipment that's not needed. We present all opportunities for savings to the client. We provide web visibility to it, so you constantly have a dashboard where you can see everything that's going on that's superior to anything in the industry. And then we manage it ongoing. So anything about this category, you dump to us, and we can take care of it for you. And it's part of our service, and we're your on-site experts that you don't have to pay employees, salary and benefits for. We make sure that you have the highest level of service at the lowest costs. So we're a firm believer in education. We're doing another webinar, The Future of Mailing, Virtual and On-Demand Mailing Services. As more people are working remote, we think this is going to be much more important for the future, is how do you basically continue to mail, when you're working out of your house or you're working in a small office. And those are two things that it's really going to cover. One is what types of tools are available for you to facilitate the production at home. And then what are services that are available? What are services and functions that are available to maybe move mail to production facilities inside your company or outside your production facility, to have sort of a virtual print environment or digital mail delivery, or what web tools are available for you to be able to access information. And so you can register for that at postaladvocate.com, and it's free to anyone that would like to attend. So I want to open it up to any questions. Hopefully this was helpful, this type of educational content. We do our biggest webinar that we do is the rate change webinar, which we'll do in December. That will go over what the changes will be for January when they increase next year. But I want to open it up for any questions, and thank you all for coming today.
Thanks, Adam. So just as a reminder, if you have any questions, you can put up your hand and I can unmute you so you can ask your question. Or if you're not comfortable talking, you can type your question in the chat box and I can read out the question so that Adam can answer. Any questions? Okay, so Adam, how do I know my rates are updated?
Okay, so first thing is, if you're going to refill your meter within a couple weeks of the refill of the rate change happening, it'll ask you for the rates. So, and you say yes, download those. But if you're not sure if anyone's done a rate increase and you're not, there's two ways that I would do it. One is just go into your meter and hit check funds balance. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to dial out and it's going to see if you have money sitting in your account at the vendor. And when you check for that balance update, it's going to ask you at that point, do you want to download the rates? And it sort of prompts you to do that. It's forcing a connection to the server at the vendor, and then you can download the rates from there. But if you're absolutely not sure, on the Monday that they go into effect, that what I would do is just know what the rate is for a 1 pound priority mail piece or one of the rates and just compare it against that and to make sure that your system's calculating at the right rate structure.
Thank you. Am I going to get a copy of this presentation? So yes, the presentation link with the recording will be sent in the post-webinar email, as well as it will be available through SlideShare and through YouTube, on our YouTube channel under FAQs in our website. Okay. Another question: do you think these rates will be extended?
So worse, I think the rates are going to go up much higher. So this is a very limited rate increase. It's just on these commercial rate structures to really impact the holidays. But every January, basically the private carriers raise rates by, usually in the 4 to 6% range. And over the last, at least 5 or 6 years, we've seen the post office follow suit. So you could expect mid to end of January, the post office to have a rate increase that's typically on, on the market dominant, the letters and flats. It's usually in the 2 to 3% range, and packages are usually in the 4 to 5% range. But I would expect this year in particular for us to get a bigger rate increase due to the circumstances the post office is in. So I would expect that we're going to get a much bigger rate increase in January of this year.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions?
I want to thank everyone for being on the call today. Feel free to reach out. This is my email address. If there's any questions on this or just general postage issues or things you'd like to know about, please feel free to reach out. And we want to thank you all for being on the call. Hopefully the information was helpful. Have a nice afternoon.